Hey guys, this is my first live stream, so apologize for it being kind of awful. Uh, Doing it outside, so if you hear any background noise, that's what it's going to be. Essentially, what I'm doing, hoping to do, is kind of talk about my plans with this channel, what my goals are, and where I plan to take it, and hopefully educate and help people along the way, best I can. Um, I've been doing real estate and investing for about 4 years. I started with wholesaling. Done bird dogging. I've done skip tracing. I've done every technique that they kind of teach you to do to start with wholesaling and real estate and get in with like no money. And I feel like the methods that are being taught now, where it's primarily they want to do it with no money. And for example, I'm kind of all over the place, but I'll try to structure a little bit better. One of the things that you're taught whenever you wholesale is that you get a property under contract and you find a buyer, and oftentimes they say that you can just do it with no money down, and that is true. Like there are people that will, you can get a property under contract and you don't have to put any money down, like EMD or any of that, and it's possible. But the reality of the situation is going to be that, say you do something like that, and someone else, a competitor, comes in and they're like, hey, you know, I'll do the same deal for the same price and I'll give you, 5,000, 10,000 EMD. Naturally the seller's going to be like, oh, I want that because that person takes it more seriously. And one of the things that I learned is like that was the hurdle that I had to get over whenever I started, because the problem I was having is whenever I wanted to go get a property under contract, uh, if I wouldn't put any EMD down, it was a struggle. And a lot of it could be the fact that I'm not the best negotiator, or wasn't at that time. Like, I was obviously new and I wasn't comfortable uh, making those offers, and not fulfilling, my end of it by saying, hey, I want to take your $150,000, $200,000 home, but I don't want to give you anything. Just give me like 10 days or 15 days or whatever it is. And as I learned more about it and I learned the nuances of like wholesaling, I was like, man, this just isn't really for me. Like I want to be able to help other people get those deals done. And that was where I learned, it's called Gator Method. And it's a part of Pace Morby's group. And essentially what we do is, or what I do now, is say a wholesaler's in that same situation that I was just talking about. And I've been in those situations. And they want to get a property under contract, but they don't have any money to do it. And this is where I love it, because it helps people who aren't in a fortunate position where they don't have the money to do something like that. And what this allows us to do is say a new wholesaler wants to get a property under contract. Well, what they'll do is they'll bring it to me and they'll say, hey, I need EMD for this, but I don't have the money to do it. And I'm like, hey, I'll help you cover that. And then you and I will split the assignment fee, whatever we agree to. It doesn't have to be a significant amount. It just has to be something that's worth, tying up the funds. Think of it like that. If it was your money, you were giving it to someone, would you do the deal? So it's kind of an open negotiation as far as to where we can go with that number. But the beauty of it is it allows me to help people who otherwise wouldn't be able to go in and do these things. And it goes, it's the same with double close. So certain states require double close, and I feel like the industry is moving more towards that because they're trying to filter out and get rid of the bad actors, wholesalers, who just tie up properties and they don't ever fill the contract, and they put sellers in bad positions. And that's a whole other video for a whole other day. And if people are interested in learning more about that, I'd be happy to talk about it. But I personally feel like that would be, it's kind of like it's a double-edged sword, because like I feel like that would help the industry, what we're trying to do here, move forward. But at the same time, it's it's kind of like you're putting a barrier to entry for people who won't be able to start in the same position that I did, and I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to be the guy to pull up the ladder behind me. So I don't know. It's just really, it's kind of like it's a tough topic. I don't want to limit people's ability to do it, but I also want to do right by the sellers. So we got to find a happy medium there. If that means a little bit more regulation, then so be it, because I don't want to, I don't want to put people in a bad spot, because I've personally been in those positions. Like I've been foreclosed on. I've been this distressed seller, and it sucks. It sucks being in that time where you don't know, you're avoiding certain calls for like bill collectors, and you have to take calls from the right people, and it's a really tough time. So I want to make sure that I don't put them in a bad spot, but I also want people who are up and coming wholesalers. I want them to be able to make money. So, I ran about that for a little bit too long. Sorry about that. But anyway, going back to the original topic about with Gator, the beauty of it is, in my opinion, is I'm able to help both. And say a wholesaler, like it's a new wholesaler, and if you're a new wholesaler and you're having just a tough time, you don't know where to get a buyer. You don't have the budget to buy 5 or 10 of these programs that other teachers will tell you to get to find buyers, or you've tried every method and it's just not working for you, and you need help with that first deal. Reach out to me. Let me help you find the buyer. Let me help you. If it's a deal and you haven't closed it with the seller, but you need help getting across the finish line, let me be the authority figure for you. And so you can just say, hey, my buyer, who would be me, they want to get on the phone with you and discuss the price, and just let me get on the phone with your seller, negotiate it, and you still get your assignment fee. And then I'm covering the EMD. And then if I'm not buying and I'm finding the buyer, then let me do all that. Like, I want to be able to help more people get their first deal, because, it's that it's proof of concept. That was the hard part for me. It was almost 6 months. I think it was 6 or 7 months to get my first deal. And it was a never ending cycle of like getting so close and then failing, so close and then failing. It was just one thing or another. Like a seller will pull out of the contract at the last minute. And at that time, I didn't know that I could, I had other options to hold them accountable. Whenever it'd be a buyer, they pull out at the last minute. I got so close so many times that I almost quit. And it sucked. But knowing what I know now, and knowing that there are ways I can help people, that, I want to be able to do that. And essentially, I think Gator is going to allow me to be in a better position to do that. And like the same thing with the double close, if you need to double close and you don't want your buyer to know how much you're making, or the seller to know how much you're making, well, you double close the property. You essentially buy it for a couple of minutes, and then you sell it to the end buyer, and you protect the number that you got. So kind of all over the place, I know, and I'll expand on them more as I do more of these, and I talk more about this stuff. But I would like to be able to help people, who are starting out, to get their first deal, in a much more realistic, I'm not going to sit there and tell you that I'm going to get you a deal in your first week, or the first time we get on the phone, we're going to get you a deal. That's not realistic. And the realistic expectation is it's going to take time. You're going to fail. You're going to have a lot of tough times, and it's going to be more work, but it's worth it, because, wholesaling can be a very, very lucrative career, and I recommend people do it. It just depends on where you are. And if you're in a small town, say a couple thousand people, maybe try to do it virtually. And there are ways to do it virtually that don't cost any money. There's just a lot of options. And I want to be able to help people do stuff like that. So this was kind of like a start of me, practicing. I'm trying to get more comfortable doing this and explaining it where I don't rant as much as I tend to do. And I hope if anybody actually sees this and, and they enjoy it, and they kind of like my style, I would appreciate, to like and kind of engage, ask me questions, ask me things that you want to learn about if you haven't done a wholesale deal, or you have one that you need help with, or a double close that you need funding for, whatever it is, just feel free to ask me questions and kind of engage. And if this becomes more of like a teaching thing, then so be it. But anyway, until next time, I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Have a good one.